Our guy Barry Svlauga is back in business after a well-earned brief vacation. Barry, what's up, dude? How are you?
Good, guys. Hope you're doing well.
We are. Where are you? How is Colorado?
Well, the not in Colorado,
Okay.
but the vacation means you got to drive to the middle of nowhere in Virginia to pick up the dog from the kennel. So,
you on your way to the dog?
Yeah. So the dog's sleeping in the back seat because she's been working out with other dogs for a better part of 10 days, and I'm driving back to DC.
Tired.
Gotcha. All right. You and I, everybody loves this time of year. The madness is upon us, but no real madness. No real upsets. You know, there's no college that everybody had to Google to find out where it is going to the Sweet 16. It's mostly big school, big conference teams. What do you make of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament?
Well, when you think about whether there's a cause and effect, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say that the portal is a cause for this kind of thing. Not that it's not going to happen every year. Like there's not going to be a 12 seed next year or 13 seed the following year, whatever. But the reason that those upsets used to happen, or one of the reasons that they used to happen, was because those mid-majors or low majors, whatever you want to call them, you know, they didn't have kids leaving early for the NBA. A lot of times they were teams that stuck together for 3 or 4 years, and you didn't have a Jacoby Gillespie like leaving Belmont to play at Maryland the very next year. What happens, I think, to some of those schools is that their best players become really, really, you know, they expose themselves as Power 5 or Power 6 conference players, and they can just not only go and play immediately, but go and get paid immediately. And, I'm not going to say that 1 year proves that we're never going to have Cinderellas in the future, but I think there's a real chance that the number of upsets over time goes down because those best players from the lower conference schools are going to end up playing for the better programs.
Does one of those lower schools win a little money 1 year, decide we're going to pay 4 or 5 people, maybe 6, and they end up going to the tournament and winning?
Yeah, I mean, where does the money come from? I mean, what school has a benefactor that can do that? I mean, this is all still taking shape, and whether we get a cap on this stuff coming up, like maybe that happens. But, I don't want to sound the alarm like the NCAA tournament is never going to be what it once was. But I think, if people fell in love with the upsets, I think they're, if you're one of those people, there could be concern that they're going to be fewer rather than more in the future.
Guess who you're on the same side on with that take, Barry?
Who's that?
Stephen A. Smith said this morning, if this continues, it will be the death of college basketball.
Well, I didn't say that.
No.
I mean, if I could get some of his $100 million, I'll be on whatever side he wants me to be on.
That I agree. Let's talk about your alma mater. The Dukies look pretty damn good, man. How impressed have you been?
Well, to me, it's kind of, and I haven't watched a ton of them this year, but to me, if Tyrese Proctor is their second best player, and I think he should be their second best player behind Cooper Flagg, then they're a really, really tough out. Because the kid Knipple, who was a freshman, can play, but Proctor's been there. Like, he's been on these teams. He's had these expectations. Obviously, he shot it well the first 2 games. But I just think his overall game was really, really good. They recognize a lot of stuff. They see mismatches. He's been there, like I said. If he plays like that, then they are very, very, very tough to beat. And I would, they basically flicked aside a Baylor team that has NBA players on it. Really talented, had been injured a lot of the year. It was a really good game for 15 minutes, and then Duke decided, you know what, we're going to win this thing pretty easily. I'd love to see them, against, they would be a regional final against Alabama. If it gets that far, that game would be pretty exciting because there's a lot of athletes on the floor between those 2 teams.
Hell yeah. Can you confirm a report that Coach K called the NCAA to send Maryland out west so they didn't get a chance to be in the East and play Duke in the Sweet 16?
I heard you say that, and I hadn't even thought of it. I mean, my disappointment was that they went out west to Seattle, where we employ a columnist, Jerry Brewer, so I didn't get to go with the Terps the first 2 weeks, and then staying out in San Francisco rather than playing in Newark, regardless of who the opponent is just. I think it's too bad. I mean, there would be a ton of Terp fans driving up 95 Jersey Turnpike to go to Newark. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get to San Francisco to see two teams from Gainesville, Florida, and College Park, Maryland, play in San Francisco for the right to go to the Elite Eight. Is a little backwards to me.
Well, that's a little crazy that those teams are way over there, and Duke was playing right at home.
Yeah, they got to play in Raleigh.
Well, I mean, you knew that when Raleigh is an option, is a first and second round site, and Carolina or Duke is a 1 seed, they're going to play there 100 times out of 100.
Right.
Like, that's just the way.
Raleigh,
I mean, that would be
Greensboro,
true.
Charlotte, any of them.
Ohio State would be in Cleveland if there was, if they were a 1 seed. Like, those advantages are earned. I think the stuff that JP is talking about is more interesting. Is like, why flick Maryland a 4 seed that earned a 4 seed out west rather than keep them a little closer to home. I thought that they would be in Raleigh and then go to Newark if they advanced. Instead, I don't even think they're coming home. They're just staying out west.
Talking with our friend Barry Svlauga here on the Ruud Guest Hotline. Ruud makes the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. You can give Barry a follow at Barry Svlauga, SVRLUGA. Barry, you said something that the Terps are staying out there. Are we sure they're allowed to after Kevin Willard said he wasn't allowed to stay in New York on Christmas?
It's a really sad state of affairs that you couldn't spend another night in New York. Here's what I would say about the Willard situation, and I might kind of start typing about this a little bit later this afternoon. But we get sick of the coaches saying, look, I'm completely focused on this team. I'm not considering other jobs when it's clear that their agents are out there, either pursuing things or having stuff come to their table, and they are, in fact, distracted by it and dealing with it. Willard, his frankness last week was a little bit alarming, but he's saying the quiet parts out loud. He's saying, right. This is what I need stuff in writing because I know if I don't get it in writing, it might not happen. And I'm going to look into this too. I mean, that practice facility that they're talking about, and I'm not into the big arms race. Like, why do you need a $50 million practice facility when really all you need are about 6 rims that are 10 feet high with backboards on them? Like, who cares? And a weight room. But that practice facility he's talking about has been kind of a project that they've been trying to undertake since about midway through the Turgeon years. I think he's right. Like, you say you're going to do this, you got to show me you're going to do this. And I do have legitimate polls in another direction. I think we get a little rattled when coaches are overly honest about stuff they aren't normally honest about. Kevin Willard seems to be very, very willing to say completely frank stuff in public when he's asked directly about it. I don't know if admirable is the right word there, but at least he's not dodging the issue. He's kind of taking it head on. However ridiculous that comment about not being able to spend Christmas Eve in New York was.
Yeah.
He just has the upper hand at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a leverage play, man, and he's got it right now.
Well, and particularly because Derek Queen did a Derek Queen thing, an NBA thing, and Banks won in from an impossible, like, the leverage went up, and he's well aware of that. I mean, JP, you're a Maryland guy. Like, you know what you expect from this program. This is the 3rd Sweet 16 appearance since they won the title in 2002.
Yeah. Like,
that's not the standard that this program should be at. I don't think there's any Terp fan who thinks like, a Sweet 16 appearance once every 8 years or whatever that is. That's not what it should be. And I think even though last year was a very, very lousy down year, I think this guy has a better chance of getting them there more consistently than whoever would be following him would have.
He seems what Gary Williams had. Lefty had this. I didn't really experience the Lefty era, right? But he had this charisma and bravado and was a character, right? And that worked at Maryland. And then eventually you got to Gary, who just had this gigantic chip on his shoulder. I'm going to beat you mindset, right?
Work ethic.
And you need that to work in Maryland. Maryland's not the easiest damn job. There are some advantages, but there's some disadvantages too. Willard seems the closest to that kind of mindset in the post-Gary era. Turgeon was just a different dude. I agree with you. I hope this is Willard using everything right now, including a damn close to miracle shot from Derek Queen, but using all of it to get this program where he thinks it has to be. I hope that is what happens, but I've also made my peace. Like, if this is just him going to Villanova, all right, we'll survive. Like, because to me, what I find, you mentioned this practice facility. This is like the great white whale of Maryland basketball. Everyone's in search of getting this practice facility built. I would rather, and maybe I'm crazy, and maybe this isn't how the money works, blah, blah, blah. Now, in the NIL era, bleep the practice facility. Just put that money to work, signing players. Just have more cash to sign players. I think in the we're getting paid for this era, the arms race of great facilities is going to be far less important than the actual the check that clears every 2 weeks.
I completely agree with that. And I don't know enough about, like, what buckets are you allowed to pull money from and all that kind of stuff, and how close they are to a salary, a cap on what you could spend on talent. But you're right. I mean, go back to before the season. I went to Maryland Basketball Media Day, and Willard was asked, I can't remember if I asked him or not. It's like, what, you got talent. They got Rodney Rice from Virginia Tech. They got Gillespie from Belmont.
Right.
They got transfers in, that they higher quality than they had the previous year. And he was asked, how did that happen? And he said money. I mean, money with a period afterwards. Like, we had money to spend on players. And that is another quiet part said out loud that I think is best said out loud, because fans deserve to know, like, okay, your program is being supported by your university and by donors and fans in a way that matters into, who you see on the court and the talent level you see on the court. So I don't know, JP, if there's a fundraising that's, for facilities that's different from NIL to pay players and get talent. But if you're asking me to choose one or the other, it used to be that facilities lured players, and the Texas football locker room had, individual lockers that were almost like living rooms for each kid.
Right.
Now, give me the check with the most zeros, and that's where I'm going. Like, that's a different game we're playing now.
Dude, I mean, Queen said that last night in the presser. Like, oh, what do you think of Coach Willard? He's like, well, he
gives us the money.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's. I don't know. I think we got to recalibrate expectations. I do wonder if you're able to give to a construction project at a school, if that has different tax ramifications. I don't know. It's who do you like to win it?
Well, I mean, I had Alabama beating Duke in the regional final, just because it feels like an SEC year. That played out over the first first two rounds with 7 SEC teams advancing. Pick one of Florida, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, and even Kentucky played well to win it all. I mean, I don't think any of those would be counted on as a surprise. But who played the best the first 2 rounds? Duke played the best the first 2 rounds. So they haven't won a title in 10 years. That seems kind of weird. It's a big gap. I don't know. The thing I would fear for a Duke fan is I very well remember the 1991 UNLV team that was undefeated heading into the semifinals in Indianapolis. They hadn't played close games, and I think they got in a close game against the first Leitner team and Duke that year, and they didn't quite know how to handle it. There's a little bit of that in this Duke team, which just leads the nation in margin of victory, and the close games they've been in, like Clemson beat them. They've lost 3 times. I don't know. It's not Coach K drawing up the play in the huddle there anymore. Like, John Shire hasn't done that either. So that would be my concern for a Duke fan, is like, if you get in a tussle with one of these SEC teams that can almost match you for talent, are you prepared to execute in the final 3 or 4 minutes of a tight game?
Totally. Talking with our friend Barry Svlauga here. Is it still shocking, surprising to you how bad the ACC is this year outside of Duke, or is it just sad? It's kind of sad to me.
It's both, and it's I think maybe we've talked about this before, but if you line up the ACC schools in alphabetical order from top to bottom and ask me to name the coach at all of them, I wouldn't even. I couldn't name half of them. I don't think in a sport that is so dominated by the constant that is at your school. Roy Williams at Carolina, Tony Bennett at Virginia, Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, even the ones that are only there a decade, like Herb Sendek was at NC State for whatever it was, 12 years. In a sport that's defined by those constants, the ACC has lost a lot of clout. And the irony of it all is the ACC conference expansion was going to happen at some point anyway, but somebody had to start it. And the ACC started it in 2003, going out and pursuing football money and geographic footprint by trying to get Miami to match up with Florida State and have a big heavyweight football rivalry. Well, football won out and football money is winning out, but the ACC is losing because that rivalry didn't take off, and the SEC and Big Ten have become the behemoth conferences. It's really going to be interesting where this basketball history conference ends up in 10 years. They still have North Carolina and Duke to hang their hat on, but Carolina had to play in the first four, and there's a lot of people in Chapel Hill who don't think Hubert Davis is the coach of the future there. It feels very, very rickety, very held together by duct tape.
It does, man. Speaking of rickety, held together by duct tape, this tweet, listen to this, B. Rob Doster, who runs a popular college basketball podcast, just tweeted out, Troy University, Troy's Tayton Connerway, the Sun Belt Player of the Year this season, is entering the portal. His agents at Saros Partners told me. Connerway averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists for a team that won the Sun Belt and hung with Kentucky in the NCAA.
You're rolling, bro.
So the transfer portal's open. There's a dude on Michigan. It's Scottie Pippen's son announced that he's transferring out. They got a game in 3 days. And this dude is announcing that he is in the portal with his agent the same way the Deebo Samuel's reworked contract deal gets announced by Adam Schefter. It's professional sports, folks. Open your eyes.
It is.
Oh, it's 1,000% professional sports. And I think, my idea is, I'm sure other people have this idea, but why are we even making these kids go to class? If they want to go to class and get an education, and that's part of the package, the financial package, that they get a scholarship in addition to whatever cash they're making, that's great. Good for you. You want to take advantage of a chance a lot of kids would kill for to get a free education. Tremendous. But monitoring GPAs and class attendance and you think Derek Queen is going to one class whenever this tournament run is over? No, he's getting himself in the gym. He's preparing for the draft. He's preparing for his future. I don't think there's any reason. Yes, for sure. But because there's passion and history and tradition in college sports and saying I'm a Clemson fan. I went to Clemson. I grew up a Kentucky fan. I wanted to go to UK. My parents went to UK. That's all very real, but I don't think there's any reason. So we can use the schools to front these minor league athletic programs. I don't think there's any reason it needs to be tied up in academics or class unless the kids want it to be. It's not about that. It's not a secondary pursuit, an after-school pursuit. It's a primary pursuit for these kids who are now getting paid and are professionals.
You're right, because back then I don't think it was really that much. Once a guy knew he was going pro, he wasn't going to class anyway.
Right. Barry, we got to run, man. Maybe we catch up later in the week. Thank you, bro.